Around 11 seconds the difference between the shot clock and the game clock. This a crucial possession. But Biberovic rotates it to Calathes. Back-to-back three-pointers from Nick Calathes. Sees Fenerbahçe Beko Istanbul take a 1-point lead.
Let's go ensemble. Defense! Defense!
So the final quarter underway. There is the 5 on the floor for Fenerbahçe Beko Istanbul, and it is the visiting team that have the momentum entering this final period after Tarik Biberovic caught fire in the closing stages of the third quarter, rattling off 8 points without reply from his hand individually to put his team up by 1 and make it a 10-0 run. Spanning quarters 3 and 4 to give Fenerbahçe Beko Istanbul a 3-point lead. That should be 55-58, and indeed it is. So Elliot Kobo inbounding from the sideline. Lloyd guarded by Biberovic. So Lloyd blows by Biberovic, gets the jump shot to go from the edge of the lane and will go to the free throw line looking to add one more. That is outstanding recognition from Jordan Lloyd. Beaten on the blow-by after he gambled reaching for the steal. Jordan Lloyd making no mistake, having got to his spot, ending the run of 10 straight points posted by Fenerbahçe Beko Istanbul. The three-point play will bring about parity on the scoreboard. So Jordan Lloyd completes the three-point play to tie things up in the presence of Prince Albert of Monaco here at the Stade Gaston Médecin. And the crowd dialing up the decibel level once again as Alpha Diallo called for the foul. That's his third. So Nigel Hayes-Davis has gone from 3 fouls to 2 fouls. That's the conclusion of that unscheduled interlude. So the action resumes. Just over a minute gone. Shot clock in the red. Big 2-footed stop by Marko Guduric. Doesn't get the shooter's roll. And then Yorgos Papagiannis positioning himself magnificently to snare the offensive rebound. Fouled in the act of doing so. So a new 14 and end line possession. Sideline possession. I thought it was going to be from the end line for Fenerbahçe. So Wilbekin fakes the 3, gets to the edge of the lane, bullet pass to the corner, 3-pointer is off the back iron from Nate Sestina. We've got contact down low, and Jordan Lloyd has been called for the foul. He thought it was a fair box out. So 2 fouls in quick succession. Take another look at the 3-ball from Nate Sestina. Oh, dear me. Well, it's Jordan Lloyd who is caught. But I think just prior to that, Tarik Biberovic was wrapping him up from behind. Guduric spinning his way into the lane, has it poked away by a hard swipe from Donatas Motiejunas. What a steal. And now Motiejunas, oh my goodness, that was an ambitious feed through a crowd. And it's Fenerbahçe who benefit with an uncontested score practically at the offensive end. AS Monaco looking to get themselves a quick score in transition. But the attempted pass to the streaking Donatas Motiejunas had to go through a forest of Fenerbahçe hands, and ultimately it couldn't find its way to the intended receiver. Turnover is the result. Kobo leaves his feet to pass. Alpha Diallo checking the shot clock, pulls the trigger with the shot clock in the red. And AS Monaco completely out of sync and out of sorts since the resumption after that impromptu interlude, which resulted in Nigel Hayes-Davis seeing his foul count reduced from 3 to 2. Well, momentum, a funny thing in sports. You certainly recognize it when you are in the presence of it. The fans do too, and that is why they are pumping up the volume here in a bid to get their team back on track. Fenerbahçe with a 2-point lead with 2 minutes 20 gone in the final quarter. Wilbekin with a speed edge over Motijunas, dancing with the dribble, hangs it up for Papagiol. That's a terrific reception. Papagiannis made the catch, just couldn't contort his body enough to kiss it home off the glass. So Akobo pushed out towards the halfway line. Motijunas looks at the three, doesn't pull the trigger, and again it's another ambitious backdoor feed. Now, if this football, I think it was football from Elia Kobo, wasn't it? But they're saying football from Fenerbahçe, which would give AS Monaco possession and a recycled 14. The officials more closely, more optimally placed tonight. So Rune Šastakajevicius not agreeing with the call that has gone against him. Let's take a look. It's Motijunas looking to drop off the backdoor cut. Now that's the football, isn't it? That was my instinct. Then there's a subsequent football from Nate Sestina, but not before it had been kicked by Elia Kobo. Wow, that's a big call. It sees AS Monaco retain possession, and it's Alpha Diallo who banks it home after cutting his way creatively through the lane to remain perfect from 2-point territory, 8 points in the game, and he ties things up at 60 points apiece. And the home fans here at the Stade Gaston Médecin looking to raise the roof as they seek to rally their team. A battle back to parity, shot clock in the red. Tarik Biberovic offloads the bat. Oh my goodness! A foul committed by AS Monaco with 0.5 seconds remaining on the possession. And Nick Calathes, who's a big-time shot maker, but surely you would live with this field goal attempt, wouldn't you? Oh, wow. Donatas Motijunas wishes he could take that one back. And he, for his part, saying that he got all ball. That is a big call. Third foul on Donatas Motijunas. Busting a gut, playing intense defense for 23.5 seconds and more, only to commit a foul with 0.5 seconds remaining on the shot clock. Now, has this been called in the act of shooting? Or are they saying that Nick Calathes was going to offload? Well, it's in the act of shooting. And that's a clear three-pointer, isn't it? No doubt whatsoever. But that's not even... Is that a shot? Is this an attempted shot? I suppose, given the context, it had to be a shot, or it would have been...
Wait. Can I have another angle?
Wow. This is a big call.
Hitting the head, hitting in the arm, 644, and 3 shots. Okay?
Well, they've said it's a foul in the act of shooting. 3 free throws to come for Nick Calathes. The Fenerbahçe fans absolutely delighted. The Monaco fans less than impressed.
Les supporters, vous savez faire du bruit, je veux rien entendre. Je veux juste entendre siffler et je veux vous entendre faire du bruit. Come on, everybody, make some noise.
Well, the encouragement of the Fenerbahçe fans for the visitors being drowned out by the cacophony being created by the home fans here. So Nick Calathes goes 2 of 3 from the free throw line, gives his team a 1-possession lead, putting them up by 2. So James working the handle, Calathes giving him room. Diallo playing point forward, defended by Biberovic. Attacks the lane, comes up empty, and it's another turnover committed by AS Monaco. Swarming defense for Fenerbahçe, Beko, Istanbul, paying dividends. That the 4th turnover of the 4th quarter committed by AS Monaco as Papagiannis lines up a three-pointer. It's long and off right. Ball still live off the rim. Montayunas looked to deflect it back to the perimeter, but only put it into the hands of Scotty Wilbekin. So AS Monaco not taking care of the basketball well in this 4th quarter. As Calathes off the iron with the three-pointer. Rebound secured by the home team. So a low-scoring 4th quarter so far, being edged by Fenerbahçe 5-6 as Mike James draws the foul on Nick Calathes. Calathes will be called for his 3rd.
Avec vous, let's go!
So Sakobo stops it just above the free throw line, doesn't get the shooter's roll. Tough rebound, Yorgos Papagiannis. Approaching the halfway stage of the final quarter of regulation. Will overtime be required, as it was in game 1 here, to open this playoff series? Calathes wide open and doesn't get the shooter's roll, but it's a tough battle on the boards by Biberovic, and he's going to draw a foul. AS Monaco will find themselves in the penalty before the halfway stage of this 4th quarter. It's been incredibly hard fought. You would expect nothing less, but for my money, AS Monaco have been devoid of flow in this 4th quarter so far. And that is foul number 4 against Jordan Lloyd. Again, the team who lead the league in terms of taking care of the basketball, committing 4 4th quarter turnovers in the first 4 minutes of the period. Some of them committed when trying really ambitious passes to a crowded lane, looking to find cutters en route to the basket. Tarik Biberovic, 19 of 21 from the free throw line this campaign. The perfect 5 of 5 now in the postseason. Puts his team up by 3. So Tarik Biberovic moves to 13 points in the game. What a game in which to have one of your best scoring outings in the Turkish Airlines EuroLeague. It's a 2-score affair. Jordan Lloyd has almost lost the handle again. Mike James bails him out. The offload to John Brown. Denied at the goal by Yorgos Papagiannis with a terrific rejection. Rotating to turn away that field goal attempt and spark a secondary break opportunity for Fenerbahçe Beko Istanbul. Terrific interior defending by Yorgos Papagiannis. So Biberovic, ambitious leaner off the iron. Rebound Donatas Montayunas. Now Mike James, with his team trailing by 4, will want to come away with points on the board here, either from the field or free throw line. Works his way into the lane, offloads Donatas Montayunas, fouled in the act of shooting. Now Jordan Lloyd is saying that's an unsportsmanlike, but I think it's going to be a regular shooting foul that will send Donatas Montayunas to the free throw line for 2. Fantastic vision from Mike James. Fenerbahçe making life really difficult as we see that rejection from the weak side by Yorgos Papagiannis to deny John Brown. And there you see Tarik Biberovic, who's exploded at trip to the free throw line, taking Tarik Biberovic. Be the high scorer for his team. So Donatas Martiniunas off the range with the first. For what it's worth, I've got Tarik Biberovic on 13 points in the game rather than 17. But either way, he is Fenerbahçe Beko Istanbul's leading scorer. Game's leading scorer is a man on the free throw line with 15. Gets the shooter's roll on the second to end the run of 4 straight points, all coming from the free throw line posted by Fenerbahçe Beko Istanbul. It is a one-possession affair. AS Monaco trailing by 3. 16 points in the game for Donatas Martiniunas. Being Monaco's leader in terms of performance index rating, 13.5 through the completed 4 playoff games coming into this decider. So Wilbekin on the rip through and then the dribble against Akobo. Sidestep dribble, pull-up three-pointer, rebounded by Nick Calathes. Terrific effort by Fenerbahçe Beko Istanbul, who continue to have a significant edge on the boards, particularly at the offensive end. As Wilbekin drives, looking to offload to Papagiannis, broken up, ball still loose. What a hustle play from Scotty Wilbekin. And in performing that swallow dive to get both hands on the basketball, his momentum carrying him over the sidelines. But you cannot knock the man's hustle. Terrific effort by Scotty Wilbekin. Watch him leave his skin on the court here. No regard for his own safety and just breaching the sideline with that left hand. That is how much possession of the pill means deep into the 4th quarter here. A 4th quarter that has been low scoring indeed. 6-8 in favor of Fenerbahçe Beko Istanbul. Zakobo working on Wilbekin, gets the step, initiates contact, mid-range J from the dots, came down with snow on it. Such was the peak of the parabola here at the Salle Gaston Médecin, and that brings his team back to within 1. 63-64 the score, with 3 minutes of regulation remaining. Well, I think Coach Saruna Shastakevich is calling for a push-off here. I think Akobo initiated the contact, but I'm not sure there was any extension with his offhand. Oh, cries of défense, défense, reverberating around this arena, looking to make communication difficult for the visitors and encourage the home team to lock down. Guduric creates room with the crossover and calmly connects his second three-pointer to remain perfect from downtown and make this a 2-score affair. Marko Guduric, as cool as can possibly be, the crossover dribble, creating room after the pick was set on the perimeter, and Marko Guduric drills Fenerbahçe Beko Istanbul's 12th three-pointer to give them some breathing room deep into regulation. Timeout on the floor, Fenerbahçe Beko Istanbul leading by 4.
Push yourself, let's go! Roll down, walk in like, watch yourself.
Istanbul during the course of the postseason, posting 10.2 points, 3.2 assists, and a performance index rating of 11.5, up from his numbers of 9 points, 2.4 assists, and a PAR of 9.7 in the regular season. And remember, in playoff game 4, Marko Guduric was the game's leading scorer with 14 points in the game, including a perfect 3 of 3 from downtown. He's hit both of his 3-point attempts tonight, none bigger than that one, to put his team up by 4 with 2 minutes and 40 seconds remaining. So Akobo being defended by Wilbekin. Diallo comes to set a screen. Akobo keeps it himself. Difficult. Jays off by a distance. And how about that for another weak side block from Yorgos Papagiannis? Donatas Motiejunas was looking to pick up the pieces from a field goal attempt that was off by some distance from Akobo. Terrific weak side defending once again from Yorgos Papagiannis to swat his second shot of the game. Both of them coming here in the 4th quarter. So 6 seconds remaining on this inbound play. They find Donatas Motiejunas, who fakes the 3 and then drives on Yorgos Papagiannis. That basket will not count. The foul committed on the ground. So Yorgos Papagiannis called for his 3rd. Mike James, 1 of 3 from downtown thus far. His team trailing by 4. Looks at the 3-pointer. Alpha Diallo lets it go from the wing. That is short and off right. Nick Calathes secures possession, wrapping up the basketball for his 6th rebound of the game. Guduric, who's perfect from downtown so far. Diallo defending. Guduric working the dribble. Wide open is Papagiannis. They look for him. Ball deflected by Jerome Blossomgame for the steal. Now, as Mike James pulls up off the dribble and lands it from long range. Another clutch bucket in the cannon of those made by the all-time leading scorer in the Turkish Airlines EuroLeague. He brings his team back to within 1. So once again, the crowd up on their feet, the bass drums being pounded, feet being stomped and hands clapped as Jerome Blossomgame gets a hand on the basketball, giving up his body to hit the deck and force a 24-second violation is Donatas Motiejunas. The violation not enforced because AS Monaco got their hands on the basketball. Here's the possession off the turnover as Elie Akobo makes it a run of 5 points without reply to put his team up by 1. Prince Albert of Monaco up on his feet, applauding the effort. That is the basis of a brilliant fight back by the home team to edge ahead on the scoreboard. Timeout on the floor. We are in crunch time where the EuroLeague legends earn and build their reputation. And this one has come down to the wire once again. Let's listen in.
Two doubles. Nick to Marco. Marco to Scotty. Double. Aggressive. If it's short throw, Nigel cut back. Hey, Tarik. Go for Marco. Tarik for Marco.
So Elie Akobo getting to his spot and hitting that mid-range jump shot once again. Elie Akobo 5 of 8 from 2-point territory. He's had a difficult night from downtown. Mike James stepping up to take that 3-pointer with 2 defenders practically draped all over him. But Mike James, as he has done so often throughout the course of his incredible career, taking responsibility to take the big shot that built the base, that provided the springboard for the momentum that has been fashioned by AS Monaco. They're using a run of 5 points without reply to lead by 1. A minute and change remaining as Mike James gambles on the steal. Tarik Biberovic, 13 points in the game, including 3 of 3 from downtown. Wilbekin leaves Blossom game, pulls up for 3, goes glass to kiss home the 3-pointer from the top of the key. 12 points in the game on 4 of 7 shooting. And inside the final minute, it is Fenerbahçe Beko Istanbul who lead by 2. As the Kobo gets to the goal and ties things up at 70 points apiece. This a heavyweight slugfest between 2 of the best teams in the Turkish Airlines EuroLeague. And they are fighting one another to a standstill thus far. Absolutely nothing between them with 45 seconds remaining. Big shot after big shot being made by the EuroLeague ballers here at the Salle Gaston Médecin. 5 points in a row on a 3-pointer from Mike James and a mid-range J from Elia Kobo. Scotty Wilbekin hitting a pull-up, countered by a take to the glass by Elia Kobo. And that is why we are all square, 70 points apiece. And Tarik Biberovic, who has been instrumental in Fenerbahçe remaining in contention. Remember, he scored 8 points in a row to conclude the third quarter. He's gone down lame, having twisted his ankle here. Oh my goodness. Saw him reach for that left leg immediately. Wow, this assessment by the Fenerbahçe medical team going to be absolutely crucial. So AS Monaco in the penalty. The marquee matchup to the 4 as Calathes brought it over the halfway line. Wilbekin checks the status of the game clock and shot clock. Working against Blossom game. Gets to the inside the lane, straight into the hands of Alpha Diallo, presenting him a gift. As Alpha Diallo with his second steal of the game. Wilbekin left his feet to pass and coughed up possession of the basketball. The 16th turnover of the game committed by the visiting team. And now there's a negligible difference between shot clock and game clock. Elia Kobo is gone for a 3. High-arcing J off the iron, and we are going to overtime. Well, the ball not leaving the hands of Elia Kobo. He came up big for AS Monaco in crunch time, netting 4 points to keep his team in contention. But having got the ball with that much time remaining in regulation, would a take to the rack or a mid-range J have been more advised? He went for the step-back 3. He couldn't find a range. And so just as was the case in game 1, we are going to an extra period. AS Monaco not able to capitalize. The ball remaining in the hands of Elia Kobo, who was so strong to keep his team in contention in the closing stages of the fourth quarter, but the step back 3 was off the mark, and that is why we are going to overtime. Remember, when we went to overtime in game 1, it was Fenerbahçe Beko Istanbul who dominated proceedings to ultimately prevail 91-95. They entered that extra period after the fourth quarter was deadlocked at 81 points apiece. This one a lower scoring affair. And the opening tip of the overtime period controlled by Fenerbahçe Beko, by AS Monaco. So a Kobo. Hesitation dribble, spinning, offloads to John Brown. Brown gives it back. Montayunas open in the corner. Mid-range J from John Brown is off the front iron. Rebound. AS Monaco. Pull-up three-pointer. Mike James makes it another big three-point bucket in crunch time. And after being quiet for the majority of this playoff series, Mike James coming to the fore here. Both in the closing stages of the fourth and the start of the extra period. His team lead by 3. Mike James, now 3 of 5 from downtown, is bullying his way to the defensive halo. Is Georgios Papagiannis. Foul committed by Donatas Montayunas. So it looks as though Mike James has rediscovered his shooting touch from deep here in the closing stages of the fourth and the start of the overtime period. Donatas Motiejunas called for his fourth foul. He and Jordan Lloyd on 4 fouls apiece for AS Monaco. No player in foul trouble for Fenerbahçe. Yorgos Papagiannis with a perfect trip to the free throw line brings his team back to within 1. Fenerbahçe, Beko, Istanbul. Well, you see the disparity in terms of free throws attempted. Both teams shooting solidly from 15 feet away. So James pushes it. Oh my goodness. Completely faked out John Brown, who was cutting towards the lane. But it looked as though, watch Mike James here. That head fake with the eyes, catching everybody unawares, including his teammate, who was the intended receiver. Turnover number 11 committed by AS Monaco. So Calathes defended by James. James defending, step through move from Calathes, rims out into the hands of Mike James. So Mike James, it looks as though he's taken over the point guard responsibilities from Elie Okobo. Drives on Nigel Hayes-Davis, offloads to the corner. Donatas Motiejunas now looking to back down Papagiannis into the lane. Beautiful stop, and he's blown the layup off the spin move. Part of his repertoire that serves him so well. Terrific footwork down low from Donatas Motiejunas, completely selling that fake to Yorgos Papagiannis, but couldn't find the finish. And after his fantastic footwork down low. So Donatas Motiejunas taking a breather. Heavy minutes logged by him tonight. 29 minutes in the fixture so far. 10 lead changes in the game through the 4 completed quarters. Wilbekin, big 1-2 stop. Tough bucket from Scotty Wilbekin. His team's first field goal of the overtime period sees them go up by 1 for their first lead of overtime. So Elie Okobo handling from the point, working the dribble against Yorgos Papagiannis, blows by him. And we've got a foul committed, and I think that's Yorgos Papagiannis going to be called for it. That's his fault. How Terry Tarpey and Kemba Walker would be loved to be out there fighting with their teammates so far. Elie Okobo to the free throw line, ties things up at 74 points apiece. So Elie Okobo remains perfect from 15 feet away. AS Monaco edge the score in their favor. They lead by 1. So Nigel Hayes-Davis has been quiet tonight in terms of putting the ball in the basket. 7 points. He has dished 4 assists and grabbed 2 rebounds. Wilbekin beats John Brown. Ball is loose. Nigel Hayes-Davis saves possession for Fenerbahçe. Nick Calathes for 3 off the front iron. Strong rebound. Jerome Blossom gain. So Elia Kobo handling from the point, working the dribble against Yorgos Papagiannis, blows by him. We've got a foul committed, and I think that's Yorgos Papagiannis going to be called for it. That's his fault. How Terry Tarpey and Kemba Walker would be loved to be out there fighting with their teammates so far. Elia Kobo to the free throw line, ties things up at 74 points apiece. So Elia Kobo remains perfect from 15 feet away. AS Monaco edge the score in their favor. They lead by 1. So Nigel Hayes-Davis has been quiet tonight in terms of putting the ball in the basket. 7 points. He has dished 4 assists and grabbed 2 rebounds. Wilbekin beats John Brown. Ball is loose. Nigel Hayes-Davis saves possession for Fenerbahçe. Nick Calathes for 3 off the front iron. Strong rebound. Jerome Blossom game. 2 minutes of the overtime period remaining. Mike James working against Calathes. James using the dribble, double teamed on the perimeter, pulls up mid-range, short on the shot, rebound Scotty Wilbekin. Mike James looking to perhaps get an and one opportunity, but no foul, no bucket. So Wilbekin. Papagiannis setting the screen. Now there's a mismatch on the perimeter and down low. Wilbekin pulls up for 3, goes up high, off the iron. John Brown deflects it and guides it into the hands of Alpha Diallo. So less than a minute and a half remaining. As Alpha Diallo attacks, goes for the reverse basket interference, surely. Yes, it is indeed. Because Yorgos Papagiannis made contact with the rim from the underside as he looked to block his 3rd shot of the game. And I think this will be basket good for Alpha Diallo. So Alpha Diallo recognizing the mismatch. And there's contact with the underside of the iron by Yorgos Papagiannis. Basket interference, basket count.
Go back. And after that, grab it. Go back and go slowly now. Stay back. That's a window.
Give me the ring camera left. Ring camera left.
Let's go. Back and go slowly. Go back. Okay, go. That's it. Go, go.
Well, that is pretty conclusive.
1 point, 17. At this point, they go. 1 point, 17 and basket. I complete the basket.
So you give the basket to him.
So basket good. And for the 2nd time in this overtime period, AS Monaco leading by 3 after a Mike James 3-pointer put them up by 3 for the first score of the extra period. So everybody who is able up on their feet here at the Salle Gaston Médecin in support of the home team. Tarik Biberovic rolled his left ankle deep into the 4th quarter as Mike James gambled on the steal. Calathes protecting possession of the basketball well. Goodrich being forced back towards the halfway line. Sees the seam, attacks, kicks to the corner. Calathes for 3 and he connects from downtown. And we said he's not the most efficient 3-point shot maker, but my goodness, he is a big-time 3-point shot maker. His 2nd 3-pointer of the game ties things up at 77 points apiece. Deep into the overtime period here at the Salle Gaston Médecin. Timeout on the floor, and we are deadlocked once again. 77 points apiece.
Throw the ball, go inside. Go.
So another look at the basket interference by Yorgos Papagiannis. And how about this from Nick Calathes? A night where he hasn't shot the basketball well from three-point territory, still no hesitation in stepping up and taking the opportunity that presented itself after that penetration into the paint by Marko Guduric. So half-court pressure being applied by Marko Guduric as Elia Kobo brings it over the halfway line. Mike James setting a screen. And now Kobo, keeping his dribble alive, he's now used it, rotates it to James. Guduric looking to force him left. Guduric beaten. High floater is good over the top of Yorgos Papagiannis. Mike James, 20 points in the game to lead all scorers. And his team lead by 2. Around 11 seconds the difference between the shot clock and the game clock. This a crucial possession. But Guduric rotates it to Calathes. Back-to-back three-pointers from Nick Calathes. Sees Fenerbahçe Beko Istanbul take a 1-point lead. The shot clock has been turned off. Elia Kobo handling the basketball as he was at the end of regulation. You've got Mike James wide open and possession has been coughed up. Elia Kobo crying to the officials, but the ball was still loose. My goodness. What a play from Fenerbahçe Beko Istanbul. Elia Kobo coughing up possession. But Nick Calathes with another standstill three-pointer to make it back-to-back buckets from downtown to give his team a 1-point lead deep into the overtime period. From one great playmaker to another, he knows how big that basket is and how crucial this next possession is. I think we're going to have a jump ball at the nearest circle.
Okay. Go. That's it. 25%. 25%. Wait, I didn't call yet. Now, I stopped the game. 2.5. Okay. But I just called the jump ball here. Okay. You wait a little bit, so 2.5, okay? 2.5 is correct. Okay, great. 2.5. Hey.
So 2.5 seconds remaining. Who are going to be the protagonists fighting for the jump ball? I think Yorgos Papagiannis may well be involved. Elia Kobo losing the handle. Nick Calathes hitting the deck without hesitation. And then Yorgos Papagiannis and Alpha Diallo looks as though it will be those two jumping it up. And that, what a picture. The EuroLeague superstars all involved in a pile-up in a bid to secure possession of the basketball. 2.5 seconds remain in the overtime period. Control of this tip is going to be absolutely crucial. It's advantage Fenerbahçe Beko Istanbul, and they have one of the best, most athletic big men in the EuroLeague contesting this jump ball against Alpha Diallo. Ball is still loose. Somebody's got to commit a foul, but they don't do so. And it is Fenerbahçe Beko Istanbul who create a little bit of history here of the most significant order at the Salgaston Medicine. Because for the first time in the playoff era of the Turkish Airlines EuroLeague, a road team has come away with a Game 5 victory have just witnessed here. Just as in game 1 at the Salle Gaston Médecin, it required an overtime period for it to be decided. And in the extra period, the shot-making prowess of Nick Calathes, who calmly canned back-to-back three-pointers, have seen Fenerbahçe Beko Istanbul fight and claw their way over the line by the narrowest of margins. It's where basketball can be an incredibly cruel game, because after 4 quarters of play, there was nothing between the two sides, and that perhaps would have been a fair result. But in the extra period, the calmness and the composure of Nick Calathes, crucial components in securing Fenerbahçe a famous one-point victory. The first ever road team to win a playoff game 5 sees Fenerbahçe Beko Istanbul return to the Final Four, whereas AS Monaco miss out in the most heartbreaking fashion. They deserve all the spirited and generous applause they're receiving from their home fans, because they could have given no more. But in the final analysis, in the extra period, it was Šarūnas Jasikevičius' men who executed more efficiently in the extra period to give us a final score after overtime of AS Monaco 79, Fenerbahçe Beko Istanbul 80. A famous road win for Fenerbahçe Beko Istanbul sees them progress to the Final Four extravaganza to conclude the Turkish Airlines EuroLeague season. What a game! Well, the former teammates at Panathinaikos, nothing but respect between those two. And my goodness, didn't they both feature prominently, particularly in the closing stages of crunch time and the overtime period. They fought one another to an absolute standstill. But the shot-making prowess of Nick Calathes, a key component in the jubilant scenes that we are witnessing here now.